They had watched Earth for a very long time. From their great ships hidden behind the moon, they observed the small blue planet with a mix of curiosity and sadness. The creatures living there were interesting. They built tall buildings. They created music and art. They loved and laughed and dreamed of the stars. But they also killed each other, constantly. High Ambassador Telos had studied humans for nearly 50 years. He had seen their wars, their bombs, their endless fighting over land and resources and ideas. It made him sad. These beings had so much potential, yet they wasted their energy destroying themselves. Still, the collective had rules. They did not interfere with young species. They watched. They waited. They hoped that someday these primitive creatures would grow up and join the galactic community. That plan changed when they set their eyes on Earth. Telos was in his meditation chamber when the message arrived. His assistant, a young named, rushed in with fear in all four of his eyes. "Ambassador, we have detected a war fleet. They have changed course. They are heading for the Sol system." Telos felt his blood run cold. They were the nightmare of the galaxy. They were conquerors, slavers, destroyers of worlds. In the past 1,000 years, they had wiped out more than 40 species, entire civilizations gone forever. Their bones turned to dust on dead worlds. And now they wanted Earth. "How long do we have?" Telos asked. 3 months, perhaps less." Telos closed his eyes. The humans had no chance. Their most advanced weapons were nuclear bombs, which were like toys compared to technology. Their fastest ships could barely reach their own moon. Against a war fleet, they would last perhaps an hour. He made his decision quickly. "Prepare a diplomatic envoy. We must warn them." Looked surprised. "Ambassador, the Council has forbidden contact with pre-species. If we reveal ourselves, then I will face the Council's judgment," Telos said firmly. "But I will not stand by and watch another species die, not when I can help." 3 days later, 3 ships descended through Earth's atmosphere. They chose a location carefully, a large empty field outside the city of Seoul in a country called South Korea. They had observed that this region was stable, and its people were known for being calm under pressure. The world watched in shock as the ships landed. Within minutes, every television channel showed the same images. Silver vessels unlike anything humans had ever built. And then, the doors opened. Telos stepped out first. He was tall, nearly 3 meters, with silver skin that reflected the sunlight. His 4 eyes blinked slowly as he adjusted to Earth's atmosphere. Behind him came his guards and advisors, all of them towering over the humans who had gathered at a safe distance. Military vehicles surrounded the landing site. Soldiers with guns watched nervously. Helicopters circled overhead. The whole world held its breath. Then a single human walked forward. Captain was 32 years old. She had short black hair and steady eyes. She wore her military uniform with pride, and she showed no fear as she approached beings from another world. Telos was impressed. Most species, when first contacted, reacted with terror or worship. This small human simply walked up to him like she was meeting a foreign diplomat. "I am High Ambassador Telos of the Collective," he announced. His translation device converted his words to the local language. "We come in peace, with an urgent warning for your world." Nodded, "I am Captain of the Republic of Korea Armed Forces. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to Earth. What is this warning?" Telos appreciated her directness. He had prepared a long speech, but perhaps simplicity was better. "A great danger is coming. The Empire has marked Earth for conquest. Their war fleet will arrive in approximately 3 of your months. They are not like us. They will not come to talk. They will come to destroy." He paused, letting his words sink in. Around them, soldiers gripped their weapons. Some looked at the sky, as if expecting the enemy to appear at any moment. "How strong are they?" asked. Her voice remained calm. "They possess 147 warships, Each one can destroy an entire city in minutes. Their weapons technology is centuries beyond your own. Their armies number in the millions. Telos softened his tone. I am sorry. I wish I brought better news. Was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, why are you telling us this? Because we wish to help. The collective has protected young species before. We may be able to negotiate with them on your behalf. Perhaps we can convince them to spare your population in exchange for tribute or limited territory on your planet. Telos expected gratitude. He expected fear and desperate hope. He expected the human to fall to her knees and beg for salvation. Instead, simply nodded again. I understand. I will need to speak with my superiors. Please wait here. She turned and walked back to her vehicle, speaking into a radio. Telos watched her go, feeling confused. That was not the reaction he had expected. Over the next several hours, more humans arrived. Important-looking people in suits, military officers with many medals on their chests, scientists with strange instruments. They set up a temporary building near the ships and invited Telos inside for formal discussions. The room was simple but comfortable. Telos sat on one side of a long table with his advisors. On the other side sat the humans. Leading them was an older man with gray hair at his temples and sharp, intelligent eyes. He introduced himself as General. Ambassador Telos said, "We are grateful for your warning. Please tell us everything you know about the." Telos nodded. Of course, what would you like to know first? Their military capabilities, fleet composition, weapons systems, standard invasion tactics, weaknesses if any. Telos blinked all four of his eyes. This was strange. Most species, when told they were about to be destroyed, did not ask for military intelligence. They asked for escape routes. They asked for mercy. They asked if there was any hope. General, Telos said gently, I must be honest with you. There is no possibility of military resistance. They have destroyed species far more advanced than your own. Your weapons cannot harm their ships. Your soldiers cannot stop their armies. Fighting them is simply not possible. General smiled. It was a thin smile, one that did not reach his eyes. Humor us, Ambassador. We like to understand our situation fully, even if it is hopeless. And so Telos shared everything they knew about their ship designs, their weapon types, their battle formations. The humans took notes. They asked detailed questions. They nodded thoughtfully at his answers. Not once did they show fear. When the meeting finally ended, Telos walked back to his ship feeling deeply unsettled. His assistant approached him with a concerned expression. Ambassador, is something wrong? Telos looked back at the human building, where lights still burned as the strange creatures continued their discussions. I do not know, he admitted. I have contacted many species in my career. I have delivered news of disasters and wars and impossible odds. Always the reaction is the same: fear, despair, desperate hope. He shook his head slowly. These humans, they reacted as if I had told them about a change in the weather. They asked questions like students in a classroom. They took notes like they were planning something. Tilted his head. Perhaps they do not understand the danger. Perhaps, Telos said, but deep in his heart he was not sure. There was something in General's eyes, something old and hard and patient, something that reminded Telos just for a moment of a predator watching its prey. He pushed the thought away. It was ridiculous. Humans were primitive. They could barely reach their own moon. They were no threat to anyone except themselves. Still, as he entered his ship, Telos could not shake the feeling that he was missing something very important. 3 weeks passed, and the ambassadors grew more confused with each day. Telos had expected chaos. He had expected governments to collapse. He had expected riots in the streets, people screaming and crying and begging for someone to save them. That was what happened when a species learned it was about to be destroyed. That was normal. What happened on Earth was not normal. The humans held meetings. So many meetings. Every day, representatives from different nations gathered in large rooms and talked. They shared information. They made plans. They argued and debated and voted on things. It was incredibly boring to watch and also deeply strange. Where was the panic? Where was the despair? General became the main contact between humanity and the. He was always calm, always polite, always asking questions. Ambassador, he said during one of their daily discussions, you mentioned that shields operate on rotating frequencies. Could you explain that in more detail? Telos nodded and pulled up a diagram on his tablet. Their shields cycle through different energy frequencies every few seconds. This makes them very difficult to penetrate. You would need to match the frequency exactly at the moment of impact to cause any damage. Is the cycle random or predictable? Predictable but very fast. By the time you calculate the correct frequency, it has already changed. A young woman sitting beside General leaned forward. Her name was Doctor, and she was apparently some kind of scientist. She had dark circles under her eyes like she had not slept in days. How fast exactly? She asked. What is the cycle duration in seconds? Telos checked his data. Approximately 0.3 of your seconds per frequency shift. Doctor nodded and wrote something in her notebook. And how many frequencies in the cycle? 12. So the full cycle repeats every 3.6 seconds. She looked at General. That is not impossible. Telos felt a chill run down his silver skin. Doctor, with respect, your most advanced computers cannot perform calculations that quickly. It would take years to develop such technology. The young scientist smiled. It was a tired smile, but there was something sharp behind it. We have some very good computers, Ambassador, and we learn fast. After the meeting, Telos spoke privately with his assistant. They are planning something, he said. I can feel it. What could they possibly plan? Asked. They have no ships, no weapons that can hurt they are helpless. I know, and yet, Telos shook his head. Watch them carefully, something is not right. In the weeks that followed, the humans continued to surprise him. They asked for everything: ship designs, weapon specifications, manufacturing processes, information about ground forces, their armor, their tactics, their supply lines. They wanted to know about psychology, their command structure, their history of conquests. Telos provided it all. He saw no harm in it. After all, what could the humans do with this information? They could not build ships in 3 months. They could not create weapons from nothing. They were simply curious creatures facing their doom. But something was happening on Earth. One day, Telos noticed increased activity at a place called Cape in the country of America. Rockets were launching, one after another. The humans claimed they were communication satellites. Another day, he saw reports of massive construction projects in multiple countries. Underground bunkers, they said, shelters for their population. Then there were the factories. Suddenly, manufacturing facilities around the world were operating day and night. The humans said they were building emergency supplies, food and medicine and shelter materials. Telos wanted to believe them, but the numbers did not add up. The amount of metal being produced, the energy being consumed, the resources being moved. It was far more than emergency supplies would require. He mentioned his concerns to General during one of their meetings. Ambassador, you worry too much, said with a gentle smile. We are simply preparing our people for what is coming. Surely you cannot blame us for trying to survive. Of course not, but the scale of your preparation seems unusual. We are an unusual species, Ambassador. We have faced extinction before, ice ages, plagues. We even came close to destroying ourselves with nuclear weapons, yet we are still here. We are very good at surviving. Telos studied the old general's face. There was nothing threatening in his expression. He looked like a kind grandfather, the type who would bounce children on his knee and tell them stories. But his eyes told a different story. Those eyes were cold and calculating. They belonged to a man who had fought wars, who had sent soldiers to their deaths, who had made terrible decisions for the greater good. Those were not the eyes of a helpless victim. "General," Telas said carefully, "the wish only to help you. If you are planning something, perhaps we could assist." "What could we possibly be planning?" asked innocently. "You told us yourself that fighting thee is impossible, that our weapons are useless against their technology, that we have no chance of survival without your protection." "That is true, but—" "Then we are simply doing what any species would do, preparing to die with dignity, making sure our people are as safe as possible, documenting our culture so that someone might remember we existed." He spread his hands in a gesture of helplessness. "We are just a primitive species, ambassador. What else could we do?" Telas left the meeting feeling deeply unsettled. That night he decided to investigate on his own. Using the ship's sensors, he scanned various locations on Earth's surface. What he found confused him even more. In the Pacific Ocean, there was a massive structure that had not existed 2 weeks ago. The humans called it a research platform, but it was far too large for simple research. In the mountains of several countries, he detected unusual energy signatures. The readings were strange, almost like the power output of a ship, but different, cruder, more powerful. And in orbit around Earth, there were far more satellites than before. Many of them were new, launched in the past few weeks. Their purpose was unclear. Telas shared his findings with the Council through a secure communication channel. "The humans are hiding something," he reported. "I believe they are preparing for war." The council elder, an ancient name, seemed amused. "War? Ambassador, the humans cannot fight their entire military could not destroy a single cruiser. What would they fight with? Sharp sticks?" "I do not know, Elder, but they are not behaving like a doomed species. They are behaving like—" He paused, searching for the right word. "Like what?" asked. "Like hunters," Telas said finally. "They are behaving like hunters preparing a trap." There was silence on the channel. Then Elder laughed. "Ambassador, I think you have spent too much time with these creatures. They have confused you with their strange ways. Humans are not hunters. They are barely more than animals. Their civilization is young and violent and primitive." "Perhaps," Telas said, "but I have looked into their eyes, Elder, especially their military leaders. I have seen something there that troubles me." "And what is that?" Telas thought of generals' cold smile, of doctors' calculating gaze, of captains standing before alien ships without showing fear. "They are not afraid," he said quietly. "They know what is coming and they are not afraid. That scares me more than they ever could." Elder dismissed his concerns. The council decided to continue their plan. They would try to negotiate with them for humanity's survival. It was the best they could do. But Telas could not shake the feeling that the humans had their own plan. And whatever it was, the galaxy was not prepared for it. The fleet emerged from hyperspace exactly 87 days after the warning. 147 warships, arranged in perfect attack formation. Each one was massive, bristling with weapons that could burn cities to ash. Together, they cast shadows across the stars. War Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Dawn. He was large, even for with red scales covering his body and yellow eyes that showed no mercy. He had destroyed 12 worlds in his career. Earth would be the 13th. "Status report," he ordered. "The fleet is in position, Commander. Sensors show no significant resistance. The planet's defenses are minimal, primitive nuclear weapons, a few old satellites, nothing of concern." Smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Another easy conquest. Begin scanning for population centers. We will start the bombardment in—" "Commander," an officer interrupted with surprise in his voice. I am detecting weapons platforms in orbit, large ones. They were not there when we last scanned the system. Weapons platforms, laughed. These creatures can barely reach their moon. What weapons could they possibly have built in 3 months? I do not know, Commander, but there are at least 40 platforms and they appear to be armed with. The officer never finished his sentence. The first projectile struck the cruiser Vengeance with the force of a small moon. It was a simple weapon, really. Just a large rod of heavy metal accelerated to incredible speed. No explosives, no energy beams, just pure kinetic force. The Vengeance broke in half. Before it could react, more projectiles followed. 3 more cruisers were hit. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did almost nothing against solid objects moving at such speeds. Return fire, roared. Destroy those platforms. The ships opened fire with everything they had. Beams of energy lanced across space toward the orbital weapons. Some platforms were destroyed, but there were more, many more. And then the missiles came. They were crude things by standards. Metal tubes filled with explosive materials and guided by simple computers. But there were thousands of them. They poured out of hidden launchers on Earth's surface, rising through the atmosphere in waves of fire and smoke. Watched his tactical display with growing horror. His fleet was taking damage, real damage, from a species that was supposed to be primitive, from creatures that could not even travel between stars. How is this possible? He demanded. No one could answer him. On Earth's surface, General watched the battle from a command center deep underground. Screens covered every wall, showing different views of the conflict. Officers relayed information in calm voices. It was organized, professional, like they had practiced for this exact moment. Because they had. Captain stood beside the general, coordinating the orbital defense platforms. Her voice was steady as she gave orders. Platform 7, adjust targeting. Enemy cruiser at coordinates 732. Fire when ready. A moment later, another ship exploded. Missile Wave 3 is away, reported a young officer. Impact in 40 seconds. General nodded with satisfaction. Good. What is the status of our orbital assets? We have lost 12 platforms, sir. 32 still operational. The enemy is focusing fire on them, but our satellites are jamming their targeting systems. Excellent, let them waste ammunition on our decoys, and prepare Phase 2. Telos watched the battle from his ship with a mixture of shock and awe. He had warned the humans. He had given them intelligence about but he had never imagined they would actually use it. They built weapons, whispered beside him. In 3 months they built weapons that can hurt Not just weapons, Telos said quietly. They built a defense network, platforms, missiles, jamming systems. They were planning this from the moment we told them about the invasion. But how? They do not have the technology. They learned. Telos remembered all those questions, all those requests for information, all those meetings that seemed so boring and pointless. They took what we told them and they learned. On the Crimson Dawn, War Commander was experiencing something he had never felt before in his long career of conquest. Doubt. His fleet had lost 19 ships. 19, against a pre-species. The humans were still firing, still launching missiles, still fighting with everything they had. Commander, his communications officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Ignore it, concentrate on. It is on our private command frequency. They should not have access to that. Froze, that frequency was encrypted with military codes, the highest level of security in the Empire. Show me, he ordered. A holographic image appeared on the bridge. It showed a human face, an older male with gray hair and hard eyes. He was smiling slightly as if he found something amusing. This is General of the United Earth Defense Force, the human said. His voice was calm and confident. You are trespassing in our solar system. Leave now and we will permit you to survive." Stared at the image in disbelief. Then rage flooded through him like fire. "You dare threaten me," he roared. "I am War Commander. I have crushed 40 species beneath my heel. My fleet has destroyed worlds. You are INSECTS. The human's smile widened. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something you did not. "We know exactly who you are, Commander," General said. "We have studied your tactics, your technology, your history. We know how you fight. We know how you think. We know your weaknesses." "You know nothing. We know that your shields cannot stop kinetic projectiles moving faster than 3% of light speed. We know that your ship armor is weak against sustained thermal stress. We know that your commanders always attack in the same pattern, wave after wave, because your species lacks creativity." Felt cold. How did this primitive creature know such things? "But most importantly," General continued, leaning forward, "we know that you have never faced an enemy like us. You have destroyed peaceful species, weak species, species that surrendered without fighting." His eyes seemed to bore through the screen directly into soul. "You have no idea whom you are threatening." The transmission ended. For a long moment stood in silence. His officers watched him nervously, waiting for orders. "Commander," his tactical officer asked, "what should we do?" Looked at the tactical display. His fleet had lost 23 ships now. The humans showed no sign of stopping their attack. In the distance, he could see more missiles rising from the planet's surface. This was supposed to be easy. A primitive world, a quick conquest, glory and slaves and resources. Instead, he was losing. "Prepare the invasion force," he ordered finally. "We will take the planet by ground assault. Their surface weapons cannot stop our armies." "Yes, Commander." As his officers rushed to obey, stared at the blue-green world below. Such a small planet, such a young species. How were they doing this? He did not know, but he was about to find out. In the command center on Earth, General watched the fleet begin deploying landing craft. "They are coming down," Captain reported. "Good," said with a slight smile. "Let them come. Everything is going according to plan." He turned to address the officers around him. Men and women from every nation on Earth, working together against a common enemy. Phase 2 begins now. Show them what humanity can really do. The invasion force descended on Earth like a storm of fire and metal. Thousands of landing craft screamed through the atmosphere, carrying millions of soldiers. They targeted what appeared to be major population centers, cities full of helpless humans waiting to be conquered. War Commander watched from orbit with satisfaction. Yes, the space battle had been costly. Yes, the humans had surprised him, but ground warfare was different. They were masters of ground warfare. Their soldiers were bred for combat, enhanced with technology, armored like walking tanks. No primitive species could stop them. The first landing craft touched down in the ruins of a large coastal city. Soldiers poured out, weapons ready, expecting terrified civilians. They found empty streets. "Where are the humans?" the ground commander asked through his communication device. Sensors showed millions of life forms here. "Spread out and search," ordered. "They are hiding, find them." The soldiers advanced through the abandoned city. Silent buildings rose around them. Cars sat empty on the streets. Shops and homes stood with doors open, as if people had left in a hurry. It was quiet, too quiet. The first explosion came without warning. A building collapsed on a patrol, crushing 50 soldiers under tons of concrete. Before anyone could react, more explosions followed. The ground itself seemed to open up, swallowing armored vehicles into hidden pits lined with spikes. And then the shooting started. From windows, from rooftops, from holes in the ground. Humans appeared everywhere, firing weapons that should not have been able to penetrate armor. But they did. "What is happening?" demanded as casualty reports flooded in. "They were waiting for us, Commander. The city is a trap. They have weapons hidden everywhere. Our soldiers are taking heavy losses." Stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 3 battalions gone in the first hour. 3 battalions of the finest soldiers in the galaxy, destroyed by creatures who had invented the wheel only a few thousand years ago. Deep underground, in a bunker that appeared on no map, Sargent watched the battle through dozens of camera feeds. She was a small woman with short hair and scars on her hands from years of combat training. She commanded the guerrilla forces in this sector. "Team 7, enemy patrol approaching your position. Wait for them to pass the red marker, then hit them from behind." "Understood, Sergeant." On the screen, she watched as a patrol marched past a broken fountain. They did not notice the humans hidden in the shadows. They did not see the weapons aimed at their backs. The ambush lasted 12 seconds. No survived. Smiled grimly and switched to another channel. "Team 12, status report. We have captured an enemy communication device, Sergeant. Sending it to Doctor now." "Good work, keep moving. Do not let them pin down your position." Across the world, similar scenes played out. They had invaded dozens of cities, expecting easy victories. Instead, they found themselves trapped in urban warfare against an enemy that knew every street, every building, every shadow. The humans did not fight fair. They did not stand in lines and shoot at each other like civilized species. They hid. They ambushed. They used tricks and traps and deceptions. They fought like animals, like savages. And they were winning. In her laboratory, Doctor worked without sleep, surrounded by captured technology. Her team had reverse-engineered their shield generators in 17 days, their armor in 12, their communication systems in 8. Now she was working on something bigger. "The frequency pattern is confirmed," she announced to her team. "Their ships use a central command signal for coordination. If we can disrupt it, their entire fleet will lose cohesion." "How long to build the disruptor?" her assistant asked. "We do not need to build anything," smiled despite her exhaustion. "We just need to broadcast on the right frequency. And thanks to the communication device Team 12 captured, we now know exactly what that frequency is." She picked up a phone and called General directly. "General, I have good news. We can blind their fleet." In orbit, War Commander was receiving report after report of disaster. His ground forces were being destroyed. His fleet was damaged and scattered. The humans showed no sign of surrendering. "This is impossible," he muttered. "They were primitive. They confirmed they were primitive." "Perhaps they were wrong," his tactical officer suggested carefully. Turned on him with fury in his eyes. "Wrong. They have been watching this planet for centuries. And in 3 months, the humans built weapons that can hurt us. In 3 months, they learned our tactics and created counters. In 3 months, they prepared traps that have killed more of our soldiers than the last 10 conquests combined." The officer lowered his head. "Commander, I do not think these humans are primitive at all. I think they have been fighting each other for so long that they have become very good at it." Wanted to argue. He wanted to believe this was just bad luck, just a temporary setback. But he could not deny what his own eyes told him. The humans were not primitive. They were terrifying. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. "What now?" demanded. "Our communication systems are being jammed, Commander. We are losing contact with ground forces. Our ships cannot coordinate." "Find the source and destroy it." "We cannot locate it, Commander. The jamming is coming from everywhere. The entire planet seems to be broadcasting interference." Felt true fear for the first time in his life. And then his sensors detected something new. Behind the moon, where nothing had been before, ships were emerging. Human ships. Not crude rockets or primitive satellites, but real warships built from designs. But not quite. They were faster, more maneuverable, armed with weapons that combined human creativity with alien technology. Lieutenant commanded the lead ship, the Spirit of Earth. He was young, barely 30, with the eyes of someone who had spent too many late nights designing virtual worlds. Before the invasion, he had created video games. Now he created death. "All ships engage," he ordered calmly. "Target their engines first. We want prisoners." The human fleet fell upon them like wolves on wounded prey. They attacked from every angle, using tactics that no commander had ever seen. They did not fight in neat formations. They did not follow predictable patterns. They fought like chaos itself. How did they build ships? Screamed at his officers. How did they build ships in 3 months? No one could answer him. In the command center, General watched the battle with quiet satisfaction. Captain stood beside him, coordinating the new fleet with practiced ease. "The enemy flagship is crippled," she reported. "Their commander has not surrendered yet, but his fleet is falling apart around him." Nodded, "Send him one final message." Raised an eyebrow. "What should I say, General?" The old man's eyes were cold, as he looked at the screens showing ships burning in the darkness of space. "Tell him we accept his surrender, and tell him that if he does not give it immediately, there will be no left to surrender." War Commander received the message. He looked at his ruined fleet. He looked at the planet below, where his armies were being hunted like animals. He looked at the human ships surrounding him, weapons aimed and ready. For the first time in history, a war commander spoke the words no had ever spoken. "I surrender." The galaxy would never be the same. The surrender was complete and unconditional. War Commander, once the terror of a dozen worlds, stood in chains aboard a human ship. His mighty fleet, reduced to burning wreckage or captured prizes. His armies dead or imprisoned. His pride, shattered into pieces too small to count. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. News traveled fast across the stars. The Empire, the nightmare of known space, had been defeated, not by the collective, not by any of the great powers, but by a species that had been classified as pre-contact primitive just 3 months ago. Impossible, unbelievable, and yet undeniably true. High Ambassador Telos requested an urgent meeting with General. It took place aboard a diplomatic vessel, in a room designed to make visitors feel calm and welcome. Telos did not feel calm at all. The human general sat across from him, a cup of tea in his hand. He looked tired but satisfied, like a craftsman who had just finished a difficult project. "Ambassador," said politely, "thank you for seeing me." Telos stared at him for a long moment. This small, fragile creature, this representative of a species that should have been dust by now, how could he look so calm? "We came to protect you," Telos said finally. His voice was quiet, almost sad. "We thought you were children, helpless against the darkness. We thought we needed to save you." Sipped his tea. "We appreciate the warning, Ambassador, truly. The information you provided was very valuable. But you did not need protection." "No," the general set down his cup. "We did not." Telos leaned forward. How did you do this? 3 months. You built warships in 3 months. You created weapons that could hurt the. You developed tactics that made their commanders look like fools. How?" General was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled slightly. "Ambassador, do you know what humans have been doing for the past 10,000 years? I have studied your history. You built civilizations, created art, developed technology. Yes, and we also killed each other, constantly." Eyes grew distant. "We invented the sword and used it to murder our neighbors. We created gunpowder and turned it into weapons of war. We split the atom and immediately built bombs that could destroy cities." He looked directly at Telos. "Every technology we have ever created, we have found a way to use for killing. We are not builders, Ambassador. We are warriors. We have been practicing war since before we could write, since before we had language, since before we were even human. Telos felt cold. But you seemed so primitive. Your rockets, your nuclear weapons, they are like toys compared to technology. Because we were pointing them at each other. Smile faded. We spent our energy fighting ourselves, country against country, nation against nation. We were too busy with our own conflicts to look at the stars. He leaned back in his chair. But the moment you told us about everything changed. For the first time in human history, we had a common enemy, a real threat from outside. And all that energy, all that creativity, all that lethal genius that we had been wasting on ourselves, we turned it outward. Telos understood now. He finally understood. You were never primitive, he whispered. You were just distracted. Exactly. The ambassador was silent for a long time. Outside the window, he could see human ships patrolling Earth's orbit. They were crude by standards, hastily built and roughly finished. But they worked, and there were more being constructed every day. What will you do now? Telos asked finally. General stood and walked to the window. He looked out at the stars with an expression that Telos could not read. The destroyed 40 species before coming here, he said quietly. 40 civilizations erased from existence. Billions of lives ended because they were too weak to fight back. He turned to face the ambassador. We are going to make sure that never happens again. Telos felt a chill run through him. What do you mean? The galaxy needs to learn something, ambassador. It needs to learn that there is a new power in the universe. A power that does not tolerate bullies. A power that protects the weak and punishes the strong who prey upon them. His eyes were hard as steel. They thought they were the top of the food chain. They thought they could take whatever they wanted, destroy whoever they pleased. They were wrong, and we are going to show the rest of the galaxy exactly how wrong they were. In the months that followed, humanity spread across the solar system like wildfire. Shipyards appeared around every major planet. Mining operations stripped asteroids for resources. Factories ran day and night, producing weapons and ships and equipment for the new fleet. Doctor returned to her research, now focused on improving alien technology rather than just copying it. She led a team of scientists from every nation, working together to unlock the secrets of faster-than-light travel. Lieutenant, promoted to captain, designed new ships that made vessels look like antiques. His creations were fast and deadly, combining human creativity with alien technology in ways that no one had imagined possible. Sergeant trained a new generation of soldiers for battles among the stars. She taught them the lessons that humans had learned over thousands of years of warfare: how to adapt, how to improvise, how to win against impossible odds. And Captain, promoted to Admiral, took command of humanity's first true deep space fleet. The Spirit of Sol was her flagship, the largest and most powerful ship humanity had ever built. It gleamed in the darkness of space, a symbol of everything that humans had achieved. Her crew came from every nation on Earth: engineers from Korea, pilots from America, tactical officers from China, weapons specialists from Russia, medical staff from India. They were humanity, united at last, ready to face the universe together. Admiral stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. Behind her, the crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. Admiral, her navigation officer reported, "Course is plotted. We are ready to jump on your command." Nodded slowly. In her mind, she thought about everything that had brought them here. The warning from the desperate preparation, the battle that should have been impossible, the victory that changed everything. And now a new beginning. "What is our destination?" she asked. "The intelligence suggests they are gathering their remaining forces for a counterattack." Smiled. It was a cold smile, the smile of a predator. "Then we should pay them a visit, show them what happens when they threaten Earth." She took a deep breath. All hands prepare for hyperspace jump. We are going to war. Far away on an observation station, High Ambassador Telos watched the human fleet disappear into hyperspace. His assistant stood beside him, equally stunned. "Where are they going?" asked. "To finish what they started." Telos shook his head slowly. "They are going to make an example, to show the galaxy that Earth is not to be touched." "Do you think they will succeed?" Telos thought about everything he had seen. The humans building warships from nothing, learning alien technology in weeks, defeating an empire in days. Their endless capacity for violence finally pointed at someone other than themselves. "Yes," he said quietly, "I think they will succeed, and I think the galaxy should be very, very afraid." He turned away from the window. "We tried to protect Earth from the monsters of the galaxy. We thought we were saving innocent children from terrible danger." He laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "We did not realize that Earth was where monsters came from." The stars were quiet. The universe held its breath, and somewhere in the darkness between worlds, humanity was on the move. They had been alone for so long, fighting themselves, killing themselves, wasting their potential on petty conflicts and meaningless wars. But now they had a purpose. Now they had direction. Now they had the stars themselves as their battlefield. And nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again.